There are times in the process of teaching when we as teachers enter a space of deep resonance, where it feels as though something greater takes over. Words begin to flow, insights surface effortlessly, and we find ourselves simply allowing this force to express itself through us. I say this because the nature of the conversation that unfolds in such moments is often something we hadn't previously planned or even thought about. Hi, I'm Roshan Singh Kukreti, and in today's video, I'm going to share one such experience. A moment where teaching transformed into something more. One day during a session, a participant raised her hand and asked, "Yesterday, I was reading a book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and there was something Swami Yogananda wrote, something that struck me deeply. Could you please help explain what he meant?" I looked at her and smiled gently. "I could try," I said, "but it wouldn't be his explanation. It would only be my interpretation, filtered through my lenses, shaped by my experiences. I can't speak from where Yogananda sat when he wrote those words, or from the depth of consciousness he was immersed in." I paused for a moment and then added, "At best, I could offer a reflection, not a transmission. Or maybe ask him yourself?" She blinked, puzzled. "But how can I ask him?" she said. "He is no longer alive. He left his body long ago." Now it was my turn to smile. "Who told you he is no longer here?" I asked. "Yes, his body is gone, but he was never just a body. He still exists as energy, as consciousness, woven into the very fabric of this universe. You don't need time travel, you just need a certain tuning, a stillness, a sincerity, a way to listen, not with your ears, but with your presence." She leaned forward, intrigued, and so I continued. "If you truly wish to connect with Swami Yogananda and ask him something about his own writings, there is a well established method in yoga for connecting with anything or anyone. It is known as Samyam. This is a disciplined mental practice that combines three progressively deeper states of consciousness, as described by Maharishi Patanjali: Dharan, Dhyan, and Samadhi. These are three meditative states of mind, each more intense than the last. It is said that Dhyan is 12 times deeper than Dharan, and Samadhi is 12 times deeper than Dhyan. Just imagine the sheer depth involved. As a practitioner moves from Dharan to Dhyan to Samadhi, the focus of awareness becomes increasingly refined and powerful. In the practice of Samyam, you choose an object of concentration, something or someone upon whom you direct your entire mental focus. And in your case, that object could be Swami Yogananda. Through deep, disciplined meditation on him, you seek to establish a genuine inner connection. She was curious to know what is Samyam, so I told her, to experience Samyam, one must first undergo a preparation known as Pratyahar, commonly described as the withdrawal of the senses. "But what does this really mean?" she asked. And I replied, "Imagine your senses as rivers, constantly flowing outward into the external world, where Pratyahar is the gentle art of reversing that flow. When your attention no longer runs after every passing distraction, stillness begins to emerge. And in that stillness, something deeper, something often unheard, begins to speak." Just because I could see the genuine interest in her eyes, I continued and said, "To truly understand this process, it will be really helpful if you reflect on the practices that naturally lead the mind towards Pratyahar. And one of the most common practices used in Pratyahar is Tratak, a very powerful practice, a form of focused gazing often done using a lamp or a candle flame. I explained that in this practice, you sit still and gaze at the flame without blinking. Eyes steady, breath calm. After some time, when the eyes begin to tire, you gently close them, and something beautiful begins to unfold. You try to hold the image of the flame within as clearly as you saw it with open eyes. In essence, you are attempting to recreate that vision inwardly, to project it on the canvas of your closed eyes. This isn't just imagination, it's inner seeing, a deeper kind of perception. At this point, the physical eyes are no longer involved. What you need now is a different kind of vision. You begin to see not with the eyes of the body, but with what ancient called the third eye, a center of inner perception, intuition, and subtle awareness. Some even refer to this as activation of sixth sense, not a single new sense, but a union of the five turned inward. A sense that doesn't reach into the physical world but into the astral, the subtle, the unseen. In this way, I said pratyahar is not withdrawal for the sake of escape. It is the redirection of attention towards a more refined reality, a stepping stone into the inner universe, where masters like Yogananda still reside. Now, instead of using a lamp or a candle flame as your object of concentration, I continued, you can use the image of Swami Yogananda himself. Begin by placing his photo at eye level, where you can sit comfortably and gaze upon it. Let your attention settle not just on the physical features, but on the essence behind the eyes. The stillness in his face, the subtle energy the image carries. Look gently, without strain. Let your gaze become steady, your breath calm and soft. And then close your eyes. Now the real practice begins. See if you can hold his image within just as vividly as you saw it with open eyes. Let it rise in the mind's eye, not as memory, but as presence. You're not imagining him, you're inviting him. This is where pratyahar deepens. The senses are no longer chasing the world outside. Your awareness is turning inward, searching not for form, but for feeling. Not just for a face, but for a frequency. And here too, I added, the physical eyes no longer help. Now you see with the inner eye, with the third eye. It's not merely visualization, it's tuning, a silent alignment. And slowly, the boundaries between the seen and unseen begin to blur. I smiled gently and said, now during Pratyahar, it's going to be a little difficult at first to see Swami Yogananda's image inside you the way you saw it outside. In the beginning, what appears within might be unclear. Sometimes a distorted image may appear. Sometimes strange colors. Sometimes even completely different faces. And sometimes nothing at all. But don't worry, that's part of the process. If you stay with the practice, soft, steady, patient, something begins to shift slowly and gradually. The image inside becomes clearer, and eventually it becomes just as vivid as it was when you looked at the photograph. And the moment that happens, you are no longer just in pratyahar anymore. You have stepped into dharan. Because dharan is when your focus becomes steady, when you can hold that inner image clearly. But even here, it won't be continuous right away. You might see him clearly for a few moments, and then suddenly he's gone. And then he appears again, and then gone again. So yes, the image is clear now, but the continuity is still developing. That's the nature of dharana. Clarity without consistency yet. I looked at her and continued gently. Now it's dhyan, meditation. This is the state that begins when your concentration becomes effortless. You are no longer trying to focus on Swami Yogananda. You are no longer thinking about him as an object outside of you. You begin to merge with his presence. You are not remembering him. You are becoming aware of him. Right now, in this moment, meditation stops being something you do. It becomes your state of being. And in this state, this quiet, uninterrupted stream of awareness, something beautiful begins to happen. Your connection to Swami Yogananda no longer flickers. His image stays steady, not just in clarity, but in continuity. And then suddenly you notice something strange. As if Swami Yogananda blink. For a second, your heart skips. The mind rushes in. Wait, did that just happen? Most people in that moment get scared, and that moment fear enters, the state of dhyan breaks. The stream of awareness is interrupted, the presence is gone. But don't worry, even if it fades, something has already changed within you. Because now you have had a direct experience. You have touched the fruit of your own practice. You have tasted the teachings of Maharishi Patanjali not as philosophy, but as an experiment. And it worked. What you need now is not analysis, just patience and the courage to return, because the next time it happens, you won't be scared. You will know exactly where you are. You will recognize that subtle shift in consciousness not as imagination, but as an encounter. And this time you won't hesitate. You will look at him calm, still, present, and you will ask, Swamiji, I was reading a book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and there was something you wrote, something that struck me deeply. Could you kindly help explain what you meant? And this time, you won't just read his words, you will hear them. I looked at her and smiled. And finally, Samadhi, pure absorption. This is where all boundaries dissolve. There's no more you meditating on Swami Yogananda. There's no more him as an image in your awareness. There is only one field, one seamless presence, one reality. And in this state, you don't see Yogananda anymore. You are Yogananda. Not in ego, not in imagination, but in essence. Your consciousness merges with his. Your awareness becomes one with the object of your meditation. And this isn't just poetic language. This is the exact definition Maharishi Patanjali gives for Samadhi. When the meditator, the act of meditation, and the object of meditation all become one, that is Samadhi. It's not an experience you create. It's a state you dissolve into. There is no question anymore because the one who was asking has disappeared. There is no mind reaching for answers because the mind itself is at rest. You are not aware of your presence, you are presence. And in that moment, something deeper is understood, not through thought, not through words, but through direct knowing. The one you were seeking, Swami Yogananda, is no longer separate, not distant, not remembered, not imagined. He is the stillness you're sitting in, the light behind your eyes, the silence between your breath. He never left. He's not gone. He's here. He always was. I looked at her. She was quiet, but something in her eyes had shifted. Soft, open, still. You asked how to ask him directly. I said, now you know. The meeting doesn't happen in the mind. It doesn't happen in time. It happens in consciousness. And that space is already within you.